So at this point, we will review the minutes from our meeting back in February of this year. So there are some corrections that will be made, and then we'll propose those and see if we can approve them, and I'll send out those corrections by email. If you'll look at page, let's see, page 4. It's under the heading where it says Toya Roby proposes perfection of the final recommendations for February the 28th. I would like some clarification there. Let's look at that one moment. Debbie Martin. Let's see, I think I said the comment here. It was a pulse check from in the community. There's 3 pages there that's in print. And then if you look at the letter A, it has like the legal and other necessary things that need to be worked on. And then if we can remove that one area where it says D, but let's leave the C bullet point where it talks about campus security review and building entries and other access points. So I would like to add that, because I think the most important thing at this point is the roof and the HVAC, because we need to attend to that to prevent mold. From previous experience, we had in Kerr Hall, we had that issue arise before, so we need to go ahead and tend to that now. And then we have security at the top of the list as well for dorm visitors. To a few of the dormitories for Barbie Hall in particular. We also need Bruce Hall and then Busup Hall.
James Hall.
Thank you. So we'll use that, and then we'll try to get the financing secure, the budgetary constraints, and then work on the renovations from there. And then we'll take, I think it was actually Toya that said instead of Debbie, that we'll work on Walker Hall. And then we had comments from the KSD alumni group that said that KSD looks dead. And they hope that it will be returned to like its former glory, so to speak. And then if you look down at B, Debbie added a comment there. Oh, instead of Scott Hahn. And then there's Nancy Perry as well underneath that. And then down underneath the letter D, I think we're going to remove that. And then you see, I think it's under G where Jeff chimed in, Jeff Kissinger. So I think that's all the corrections that I noticed. So we may have some other like minor spelling corrections that need to get straightened out. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to add today? Any other comments? Any other minor fixes that you felt like needed to be attended to before we move on to the meeting?
Okay, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes and the minute corrections? Okay, Debbie proposed a motion. Is that accepted? to accept the February minutes and the corrections made there. Next, Nancy Perry seconded it. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. So many ayes.
Aye.
Josh, okay, great. Thanks. Motion passed. All right, let's see. So T. Hewlett, I think you wanted to present some information. We're going to move that to the top of the agenda to allow T some time to present. So take it away.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate your time today, and especially allowing me to move forward so that I can meet both commitments. Thank you. Just give you an update on the current projects and then give you an idea of what's coming up, long-range, long-term plans on facilities. Jacobs Hall, I'm sure everybody's interested in how that project's going. The boiler project is going really well. All of the internal piping is roughed in the basement of Jacobs Hall, and we've made all of our connections and passed inspection and our test. If you were around there today, we're forming up to pour the pad for the building to go on. The truss came this morning, so they're there. So we'll pour the pad and then we'll start on the building outside so that we can move along on this project and hopefully get it completed. June 9th is the substantial completion date, but I think it'll be moved into July because the contractors are going to ask for a few weather days. And so they'll be entitled to some. We'll always have a discussion, but obviously we'll have the boiler project done well before winter gets here, we hope. So Argo McClure, we're about 95% complete on that project on phase 4. The issues right now are we're waiting on materials due to COVID that are just back ordered. The blinds, some other pieces in the HVAC in the art room, those pieces are just, we just can't get them until the factories can release them. They don't have workers, and it's not anything, it's a special order. It's just that they don't have people to complete the order. So we're at a little bit of a standstill there. I hope if you've been around campus, especially on the sides and around back, you can see the new windows and infills and all that really helps with the outside look of Argo. We're really pleased with how that's turned out. So those are the projects that are current. What I'd like to do is give you a little idea of what's going to be coming up. There's some monies through the legislature that we got, and then there is still some monies out there from this COVID relief or ESSER. It hasn't been determined what that will look like for KSD on the facility side, but we have already gone out and selected an architect, the Patrick Murphy Company, to do roof studies. We had our meeting last week, and just to let you know sort of the shape of the roofs on KSD, the first priority will be Thomas Gym. That roof is in the most poor repair. We're really trying to get that project moving forward quickly. There are too many different places on the roof that are blistered that could allow a lot of water to come at a really quick time, which could lead to ruining the gym floor again. We went through that 2 years ago at Christmas. So we're trying to get out in front of that. That project estimate is about $532,000 to completely re-roof Thomas. The second priority will be Grow Hall. The front part of that building has had newer roofing, so we're pretty stable there. But the project would let us do a complete re-roof on the backside where there's some blistering and open areas in that roof. That project is estimated at $132,000. And then Middleton Hall would be next on our list. There's some blistering there, but it's not in urgent need. We think that there's still some life in that roof. But when we do that project, it looks like it would run us somewhere in the neighborhood of $224,000. Kerr Hall is in actually decent shape. The problem with Kerr Hall are the skylights. And I think if we could just take a moment, anytime you cut a hole in the roof and hope it doesn't leak, you're just asking for trouble. So the plan there will be, when we do that roof, is to take the skylights out. But what we're going to do is some really nice LED lighting there that will replicate daylight. We did this on a project in Louisville in Hauser Hall, took out skylights and did the LED lighting. And it was really a nice addition to give you the same amount of lighting without having to deal with the holes in the roof. And so when we get to that project, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $365,000. Brady Hall, the roof is in fair condition, but when we do it, it will require a complete re-roof. I was up on that roof back last summer, and it wasn't bad, but there is some blistering, but we've managed to get it in pretty good shape. But Brady Hall would be $438,000. And then Argo McClure has a new roof. We were fortunate, I guess you should say. We had some damage from weather, and the insurance and the warranty put a new roof on that building. So at Argo McClure, we're in really good shape. Also in July, when the money rolls over, we'll be constructing a new maintenance shed down behind Fosdick on the blacktop, not on the blacktop that's new, but on that other piece where the equipment sits now. And that will allow us to put all of Mr. Westerfield and Ms. Smock's equipment under roof, which will be really nice, and we can secure it. I don't know if you're aware, but we've had a series or a rash of thefts on campus, and it's starting to become quite costly. They even stole a trailer and a grater blade, which was pretty hard to do, but they did. And so we want to get our equipment out of the weather and then be able to secure it so that when our staff needs it, it's going to be there. Also in the Jacobs project, if I could back up just a little bit, when we did that in the building that's going to be out back, we have put in that project some conduit for electrical service. And once the Jacobs project is complete, we will go back and put some additional lighting on that back parking lot that will really light that up without being too bright, but it'll be a security issue that will help to resolve, but also give some lighting that will be very aesthetic to the beauty of that building. And so that's included in that project as well. The other thing that we have going forward, we're in the process of getting a contract on for HVAC, heating and air, and that'll be a partnership between KDE, KSB, and KSD to come together and select that architect like we did for roofs, so we can begin to do some design there. And again, we have systems on campus that are well beyond their service life, and we're trying to get this project off the ground so that we can replace those before we have some type of catastrophic failure. So those are the projects that are either current or on the drawing board or out in the future. If you've got questions, certainly I'll be glad to try to answer those for you. And
does anyone have any comments? Anything to say? Oh, T, I haven't heard a word about the legislator in the state about the 6-year plan. Is that going well? Any news on that front? You're making progress?
yes, it's still in review. We have met, I guess I should say, countless hours on reviewing it, and it's been a little more technical because there's going to be 2 pools of money. The state legislature is not going to give any money until the COVID money has been all used up. So we're having to go back and sort of refine that to make sure that we meet the guidelines from the federal government on ways to use that money, and primarily roofs and HVAC systems because of air quality. There's a little bit of a security piece in there, so we'll look at that. But yeah, that project is in the next phase. I think the end of this month, without looking at my calendar, I have to be available for a conference Zoom meeting like this with the Department of Education and the legislative subcommittee. So we're moving along. We're advocating. If you totaled up these projects today, you'll notice that just the roofs alone are probably close to $2 million. And so we're really working hard to secure funds for the campus so that we can fix the roofs. And then if you think 2 million is a lot for roofs, the HVAC is closer to about 10 million. So we're trying to get all that we can so that we can do the pieces and parts that need to be done so that our kids are in really good facilities. I think we've made great strides, but we're always looking to improve. But these systems really need some attention.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, T. Thanks. Are there any more comments or questions related to his presentation there? All right, well, thank you so much, T, and thank you for your time and sharing just what's going on with the projects we have going on. Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Toya, take it away. Toya, you are muted.
No. Okay, ready. All right, so can everybody see this interpreters okay with the presentation? So we're ready? Okay. All right, so I just went ahead and did the principal's update on a presentation. This time I had several things that I wanted to share. The first one is, let's see if I can get this to move, is Ksd and CEA accreditation. CEASD stands for Conference of Educational Administrators of Schools and Programs for the Deaf. CASD offers school accreditation, and it's a voluntary process. I attended a training on the process back in April, the first part of April. I think there was, oh gosh, about 30 schools on the training that day. So we have surveyed staff internally, and the majority of our staff are excited about going through this process. KDE has also given their blessing, but I wanted to present this to you all today for feedback and next steps. In the information that I sent out, I shared the presentation that I got at the training. So I've just kind of summed up today what it is, the expectations. It is, they said it's about 12 to 18 months of a self-study. As a team, we're hoping to make it through in a year or a little under. We have already started some steps internally. The self-study process, appoint internal coordinators. We have begun this. A varied group of stakeholders we will be reaching out to, and including our chair of advisory board, as well as reaching out to Ksd Leadership and Charitable Foundation Leadership. We have also internally looked at our mission statement, and we had a committee that reached out to the community for our vision statement, and I'll share that with you all today. There's 12 standards, and I'll show you those here in a minute. So we're just starting our process, but we want to have our steering committee and some teams in place before we leave for the summer. so that when we start here in the fall, we'll be ready to go. The standards there are 12 standards, and I'll give you a minute to read through these. So our report, when they talk about our report, the history of KSD, our vision, mission, and belief statements, those are all very important parts. That's standard 1, philosophy and mission. So we're going to be breaking down internally how we're going to address each of these standards as part of our self-study. So I wanted to share that information. Any questions about accreditation? There's current.
I have a question.
Yes.
I remember we did this previously back at Louisiana School for the Deaf. They had several teachers involved in that process. And I mean, and it was a slow, tedious process. It was very exacting, but we also felt like it was very beneficial in any school for the deaf to, pursue that accreditation.
Well,
and to support the organization as well.
I think any time that you do a self-study, and it's systematically approached through these standards or a set of standards, I think that's always an opportunity to identify what are areas of strength and what are some opportunities for refinement or growth. So the team's excited about it, and so we're looking forward to it. So we're hoping to get our application submitted to CASD in this month, or at least the 1st of June. And then at the end of the process, they'll have, we will pay to have, I think, a team of 3 to 4 come on campus. We submit our report 6 weeks prior to them coming on campus, and they'll do interviews, go through whatever they want to see, and they'll give us an initial report before they leave campus, and then we'll get a formal report some weeks after that. Okay, KSD graduation. We're going to do it like we did last year as a drive-in graduation. Scott attended last year. We had great feedback from our families, our staff, and our students. They really liked it, so we're using that same approach. This year, graduation's a little different. It'll be on a Wednesday. It'll be at 2 in front of Thomas Hall. We have 11 seniors that will be walking. And then parents will be staying in their cars, but the students will be out front. We've done some special things for them. So I think that our seniors will be very pleased. As advisory board members, you all are invited. I'll be sending out an RSVP. If you all would like to attend, we'll have, we just need to know who's coming so we can make sure that we have socially distanced seating ready for you all, but we would love to have everybody. And then at the conclusion of graduation, as part of this historical record, our students, our graduating seniors will be going over to Jacobs Hall to have a picture on the front steps. Any questions on graduation? KSD Sports, we've had 3, well, actually 1 is this evening. This will be our 3rd one, but 3 track meets this spring for our participating students. Lisa Kingsley, our athletic director, has been in conversations with some other schools. We have just not been permitted to travel. Right now, there's no field trips for districts across the state. So we're hoping that we'll be ready to be able to travel to some of our other sister schools across the nation this fall. New hires and staffing. We have, I said student life, actually, Ashley Klein is one of our instructional assistants, and Keisha and Mary Beth are in student life and doing really good jobs. Tammy Sawyer is our third shift nurse. We anticipate 2 to 3 retirements, and as soon as we can, we'll have those posted within Kentucky as well as nationally through CASD. We did other interviews this week, but nothing is official. We've made some candidate selections, but it's being routed, so we cannot officially share anything as of yet. We'll share that at our next quarterly meeting. Summer school is going to be a little different this year. Historically, summer school has been 2 weeks. This year, we are offering summer school for 1 month. Letters went out to family. It's open to all KSD students, but this year, no students from other districts or quotas are invited this year. The focus has been on recoupment of learning due to COVID. So we're really focused on academics. The afternoon we'll have some enhancement fun activities, but we're really focused on, again, getting our kids on campus and keeping them immersed in ASL and their studies. As at the top, I said no FLV this year. That was a difficult decision. But Tony has been doing a lot of virtual conferences, and that's what FLV would have looked like. It would not have been an in-person at the time that we made this call. They had not been approved for large gatherings. And what he was sharing is that our parents are just kind of tired of Zoom meetings and conference calls, and the attendance to some other trainings from teachers and parents has just been low this year. So we project that we'll be back to it live next year. So this year we just put that one on hold. Any questions on summer school? One other thing that we're doing differently this year for summer school.
That has a question.
Yes.
I think it's great that we have a nurse now in the evenings as well. That's good news to hear that, so I'm pleased.
Good, good.
I am a bit disappointed to hear about FLV, but I'm hoping that next year we'll be able to get that back up and running. So fingers crossed.
We are too. We are off.
And then I also wanted to add one more.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious to know if you'd heard, sorry, I can't see, Brian.
I know the legislature passed an act saying that that students would be able to select additional school year. Is that something that any of our students were interested in?
Yeah, supplemental school year is, I cannot remember the House bill right now, but that was being offered to all students across.
It's 128 is the House bill.
Thank you. So that is being offered to all students. We surveyed parents. They had to apply before May 1st or by May 1st. And then that will be taken to the board this month for approval. I believe we had 6 or 7 students to apply. And so what supplemental school year is, students can stay an additional year. They don't have to stay the whole year, but we go back and they get that extra time. So I would say it was just a little over about 10% who had requested, a little under 10%. Okay. Credit recovery. We're offering credit recovery.
I'm sorry, I do have one more question. This is Scott.
Yes. Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're offering credit recovery this summer. That is a new component that we're offering to our high school students that needed additional supports. Dr. Rohr will be leading that. So we're excited that students have that opportunity as well. Okay, 200th year planning. Carol Ann Morrison and I met with Rhonda and Barbie and some of the committee members February 19th. Rhonda and Barbie have submitted some lease agreements to KDE and they're currently under review. And I talked to Rhonda the other day, and we do not have our next meeting date as of yet. Any questions? Okay. We have yearly our school risk assessment report. And this took place in the past month. Andrew Hergen walked through campus with the deputy who submitted our report. The feedback was that administration has embraced the provisions of School Safety and Resiliency Act. And then he left with 3 recommendations. One is to have an SRO for 24-hour security. As T. Hewlett shared earlier, we have had some thefts this year and some trespassers that have done some damage to property. They asked to consider an Alertus emergency warning system. That is something we have looked at. And what it feeds into the computer, so it will show up on all of our laptops if there's an emergency. Jared has actually been checking into that. There is a waiting list with other deaf schools, but those that we have reached out to have liked the system. And then thirdly is to install a perimeter fence and appropriate gates to secure campus to restrict trespassing. Andrew has been working on a map for fencing across campus. We would ask that all of campus, at least to the farm side, have fence and behind us. Just to stop trespassers. The front part of campus, if approved, we would have that as a really pretty fence, but would still keep our students in case we ever have a runner and they don't make it to the road, as well as people who don't need to be on campus. We want to make sure that we know who's on campus at any time and that they have business here and they're just not out for any other reason. So, any questions on that report?
Yes, Nancy and Scott both have their hands up. Nancy can go first. Okay. Speaking about a fence, I was wondering how high the fence would be, in order to maintain safety, to keep people from actually coming in. And if you go around the perimeter at one fence, would that, impede upon or the deaf people being able to communicate and get around, that sort of thing? Also, how, if interpreters are going to show up on campus, tutors, that sort of thing, how would that gate system work? How will access to campus be allowed? Would that require an ID or anything like that? I'm just curious how that whole process will work.
The system that we're looking at, we're looking at a few things that we had put as part of our plan and requested. Was one of them is card readers for to get into the buildings. I know that's not exactly what you're asking for, Nancy, but I'm kind of showing you the layers. So that would be one thing to get in buildings. The fence would not, when I've toured some different, I've been to Tennessee School for the Deaf, North Carolina, Denver, and
yeah, I did see a fence in Tennessee. I did
the majority of the schools that I've seen have fence and have entrances. Texas School for the Deaf, their gates are open. On part of their campus, their gates are open during the day. On the other side of campus, the gates remain shut. They actually have a security guard out front in a gatehouse. They open the gates when they determine you have legitimate business on campus. So what we were looking at is like what I call the farm road in behind the elementary and Kerr. It has a keypad, an access pad that staff would know that code so that they can get on campus. We have up at the top of the hill on the weekend, you can't always see cars that are parked up there. And I've been over on the weekend, and so is Andrew, and you'll find people just parking at the top of that hill. So that is an area that we would like a gate. And then we're also looking at another gate off of 2nd Street and using some of the old stone from the fence and utilizing some of the old wrought iron that's not being used to make an entrance. So while it will be pretty, we definitely, security is first and foremost. To your question, Nancy, about the height of the fence, I can't tell you exactly. I will have, in fact, I can share that back out to advisory board and get you some more information. There is, if you've ever been to Camp Nelson in Jessamine County, they have a fence that protects that cemetery. It's pretty, but it's tall enough that you can't climb it. It does not look like a prison fence. It's a very attractive fence. We certainly want something that mimics and honors the history of campus on the front side. So again, this is, wishes and wants, and we have to see if, the money will be there and if we would be approved for that. And it may have to be done in phases.
Thank you. Great. Any other questions? Anybody? All right. Well, I hope that we get some, that's the alert us seems like a wonderful system. Hope we get that installed. I think that's a great idea. If we can convince the Department of Ed to maybe look at other deaf schools around the country and compare that. We shouldn't be compared with, the public school system. We should definitely be looking at what is successful for the deaf schools and what they have around the nation. So hopefully we will get that what we need from the Department of Ed. Keeping our fingers crossed.
Okay, I wanted to include some data for our outreach folks. And this is just a comparison of services that they provided from 1920 to 2021 school years. So overall, there is a significant increase on our use of our consultants. And these numbers include districts as well as support directly to families and students.
All right, seems like this went up.
It has. It has. So again, that's a rolling number from July to April. That is cumulative.
Okay, this is Scott. I think it's important for the general legislator and everyone in the state at the state level to understand the needs of deaf and hard of hearing students throughout the state and on campus as well. I think it's really important that they are aware that we do provide services beyond KSD for the state of Kentucky for deaf and hard of hearing students. I think these are really good numbers.
We have identified a location on campus that will house our statewide center. So there's an actual location. We're looking to purchase some, it'll be a suite of offices in a training room. Essentially, it's the old infirmary area. And so we're looking, like I said, furniture training area. And so Tony's working on that now. Lastly, I want to close out with our strategic plan. We have met this year. Pretty much our strategic plan was to hold last year, whereas a lot of people were not on campus, and it's hard to do things when you have nobody here. So we just suspended that plan. Some things we continue to work on, but overall meetings and everything was suspended. We met with our team leads this week, and I'll show you what we want to do is to link this on our webpage, and everything will be posted except for the tab on safety. That will be hidden as we make decisions about school safety that does not need to be publicized. We have 9 tabs at the bottom, and you'll see across here. So those areas of the 9 are teaching and learning, family engagement, governance and leadership, safety, student life, our resource center and outreach, mental health, communication, and PBIS. So at the front, so all of our committee members and team leads have a copy of this document. At the front is our mission and vision statement and our overarching targets that we're working on, and then each area has a goal underneath it. So I'll let you look at those 2 statements. So our committee reached out to, and you all, I think you all were on that, as well as to be contacted for input. They used input from the community, from staff, to come up with this vision statement. So this is new, and this will be part of discussion. We did this, our mission statement, 2 years ago, and put it back out to staff, and there were some minor refinements made to the statement. The other thing as part of our accreditation is we need to develop our belief statements. We've not done that yet. Okay, so let me show you kind of how this looks. This is what we're calling our dashboard. Each one of the big goals has a vision or purpose statement. These are committee members. More may be added, but it's a visual dashboard. So when you look down, that yellow tells you it's proceeding, and if it goes green, the goal has been met. If it is red, that means it's not started yet, or there's some barriers. Down at the bottom, they're also to identify 3 to 5 year goals. A new goal this year is family engagement. As we've talked about, we're having a challenging time to find parents to serve on our advisory board. Joe, our assistant principal, and Tony Pater is one of our elementary teachers. This committee they're still adding some members to their committee. Actually, I have some of their names. I've not populated it yet. These are some initial goals they have not met yet, but these are some placeholders. Parent-teacher association or parent-teacher cottage. Virtual ASL tutoring for families. We know that has been going very well. So Cheyenne will be leading that one. And then onboarding of new families. We see that we have families that send their students here, and we may never see parents the entire time that their child is here at school. So we want to develop some expectations for when they come in as a family, that we identify at least maybe once or twice a year that they do some kind of event on campus with their child, that they visit campus. So we want to make sure that we support them, but it feels like we have some absentee parents of just involvement, and we're going to own that one ourselves and look at ways that we can increase and support. So if they're not involved, then let's see what we're doing inside to support that. We tried to get the Parent-Teacher Cottage Association started a couple of years ago. A couple parents reached out, but it didn't go anywhere. We hit a little bit barrier internally on just how to, I guess, fundraise money. So I think that's something that Carol Ann could help us with and should not keep us from moving forward. But so those are a few goals there. Governance and leadership falls underneath me and leadership. So accreditation is one of the goals. The strategic plan, campus diversity and equity. This is something we'll be working on as professional development this fall. Developing processes for staff recruitment and retention, onboarding and offboarding strategies. When we have these teachers that are retiring this year, they're leaving with a lot of institutional knowledge. So what do we do when we offboard with them to make sure that we get as much information as we can, and how do we support new staff coming on? So it's not just here's your duties, but we just want to make it a comprehensive process. Ksd Leadership will be active members of CEASD. We're increasing that. We have an administrative and staff membership. Some leadership has been very involved this year in attending PD. We just want to continue to grow that. And then 200-year planning, what we're doing with that, and then campus beautification projects. So these are some placeholders, and some more goals may be identified. But again, we want to be careful we don't get too many goals. We want to be able to succeed with what we have. Safety, there's several goals on that. Student life, Doug is just starting this, so they're going to work on their goals. Communication, Billy Gully is the lead on that, and that is broken down into the standard, trying to get the standard started. That is underneath here as a major goal. So they've got to update their dates. Like I said, it was on hold last year, so he'll get in here and update this, and then we'll look at this monthly. Our work is broken down to 30, 60, 90, 120, 150, and 180 days across the school year. And then PBIS, that is led by Chanda and Alex. So school discipline, positive behavior supports, and what we're doing here for students. So I wanted to share our strategic plan. And like I said, Aaron, our digital learning coach, is going to work with us on connecting this within our website and getting that going so that anybody, you all, the public, can watch our progress across the year, being transparent and accountable and work. Like I said, the only thing that will not be posted is our school safety. Any questions on that?
I have a question. I mean, going back to the issue of little parent involvement. My hope is that using, our virtual outreach people, and even perhaps to, physically go to their home, if policy permits during COVID. I mean, I understand that caveat, but perhaps having that, one-on-one peer support would draw them to actually come to campus, maybe at a later date. And then also discussion like the foundation funding for the FLV, we get that funding yearly. So is there any way that we could possibly, reallocate that money to try to engage parent involvement and participation? Just so we could, make this some sort of reciprocity thing. I know it's a challenge, and it has been and remains so, but I'm trying to just figure out how to get creative here and think outside the box.
That's a good.
I'm not a public relations person, but if we had someone who could go out, be the face of KSD, have that FaceTime with parents, that's the thing that I think maybe able to reach them.
Well, and that's where Tony is doing a good job of our outreach is actually probably getting more family engagement than we are on campus. And when I say our parents aren't involved, I mean our campus parents. Tina and Carla did a really good job and did a training this fall for our parents, and we'll do so again. And we had parents attend. We had some parents attend when we opened up virtual school this fall, and we did a training through Zoom, and we had some parents attend, and it's probably about, it varies from 15 to 20%. With regards to the FLV money, we have a lot of ESSER money, the federal money. We have a lot of money for that. And so Tony had talked about maybe doing something later in the year. Maybe it's not a traditional FLV in the summer, but we might be able to do some things on the weekends. So that's not off the table yet. So we are trying to think outside the box, Scott. So we're on that same wavelength of trying to do that. So we will keep you posted on family events, and you'll be able to, once we get our strategic plan on our website, you'll be able to view that.
Okay, as a follow-up question, Toya, to Scott again. Thank you, Toya, for sharing all the data. It's been really nice to just see exactly where we stand at this point, and then also where we're going from here. So I mean, it's nice to know, what we're aiming toward and how we can go about reaching that. So thank you for sharing that. And with us and with the greater community of parents, our alumnus, so everyone can be supportive of the school and our goal and our children. Okay, anything else to add?
No, I'm finished. Thank you. And thank you for your questions.
Okay. Well, I think we have our student presentation at this point.
All right, hold on. Give me a second just to upload his presentation. Let me go ahead and spotlight him. Hold on just a second. It will not, okay. Alicia or Brian, can I take one of you all off a spotlight for a few minutes? It will not let.
You can remove my spotlight because
Okay.
Brian's currently the one who's the ASL interpreter.
All right, okay. It will not let me spotlight him. It'll let me pin him. Hold on, let me check with Kaylin. It's not even showing up that he's on there. take a 1-minute eye break. I'll be right back. Hold on just a second. Let's see if we can fix this. Okay, I'm on Zoom, and it will not let me spotlight Kaylin. Oh, you're the, I'm the host. Good look. It's not. Oh, that never came on first. Okay. Turn on your camera. Okay. Where did it go? There it is. Okay, that's right. Make sure you. All right. It is my great pleasure to introduce one of our seniors this year, Mr. Kaylin Barrett. Kaylin came to me, I guess about a year ago, Kaylin, about creating a video for campus kind of as an advertising tool. And we'll make the entire video accessible to you all, but he's going to show just a few minutes. But Kaylin, would you like to talk about what your goal was and what you wanted to accomplish?
Well, my goal for the video was to encourage students to come to KSD, because we don't have too many students here on campus right now. And I also found out the percentage of deaf students that, are in this entire state of Kentucky, and I was astounded, because I would say it's about 60-70% of students don't elect to come to KSD, and they end up in like the public school setting. So I guess I was trying to think of, how we could convince student and parent alike to join us here on campus. So I made a video that would allow the students to see what, KSD is like before, they sign up to coming here, just to kind of give them a preview, to get an idea of what, campus life looks like. And so it's about, like a 20-minute video in total. It shows, our teachers here on campus. And then it shows, a few like former students, and then some students who, are here currently, just to kind of, get a feeling for what it's like, to be here at KSD and to be a student here. So I wanted to impress upon them that, KSD is not just for, just a school, because it's a community. So I guess I just kind of wanted to give them a feel of that, and that video, goes into detail about it. That's basically all I can say.
Thank you, Kaylin. Let me share my screen. Kaylin did all the editing himself and did all the interviews and wrote the questions. And we are so proud of him. I think you all will see Kaylin in the future. Maybe in Hollywood. All right, Brian, are you seeing my screen? Okay. There we go.
See this shared screen.
There we go.
Now we do.
Okay, you all will need to interpret as it's going.
Hello, I'm Kaylin Barrett, and welcome to KSD, Kentucky School for the Deaf. We're excited to have you here. We want to show you what life is like here on KSD. So come on, let's go to class. Hey, who are you? I'm Chris.
Some pausing and some freezing here. Are you learning to control that, I think? Wow.
Did you make that?
Great.
We have different activities here on campus for students to enjoy. And then we've got some lagging, it's kind of hard to tell. You said right here we can meet somebody else.
Hello.
You want to introduce yourself?
My name is Jay Cloud. It's my sign name, JC on the wrist.
Awesome, and you're a teacher here at KSD.
Yes, I'm a teacher, and I love it.
So you do technology. What else do you do?
That's right. I teach design, computers, working with numbers, and then there's it's hard to decipher because of connection. Make many things. We make awards. Do a lot of work with machines. And it's really awesome for the kids. And we do wood shop as well.
It's kind of hard to interpret for Kaylin right now. He's lagging a bit. All right, we'll see you later. So now we're going to look at some different things. Again, he's going through a list of 3 different things. It's kind of hard to get an idea of what he's saying at this point. Talked about meeting, I guess, the 3 different people, himself, and then the 2 individuals that are in the classroom. And are you ready?
Frame rate being so low, it's really hard to catch anybody's signs or their names.
Kaylin's asking questions to other students. I think he's asking when they first into KSD.
Kindergarten. Weren't able to see the signs for the other 2 people.
At this point, I'm not really able to catch much of what Kaylin is saying.
goes on to, Kaylin, go ahead and share what the students, where we didn't get to show that. What did the students say why they like KSD? I thought Caitlin's, what she had shared about her experience.
Yeah, I was involved with the making of the video. But there was, part of it, I'm sorry, he was bouncing around here on the screen real fast. So I'll try to make it brief because there was, a lot of video that I had to edit out. But to get down to the brass tacks of it, it was just talking about like, what, KSD is like, and what it's like, to be a student here and kind of, in the world that we have here. And so like the whole thing was about like, I think 20 minutes or so. And I knew there'd be no way I could show all of that. So like, sorry that I wasn't able to like have like a clear video for you guys to watch. Maybe I can like send it to you guys and you can watch it on your own time later. Because you really couldn't see it today. And Scott saying, thank you, Kaylin, for sharing the video. You did a fantastic job. And I hope to be able to see, the video again when it, is able to play smoothly for us. But, as a former student, maybe we'll see you, as a movie producer one day. Who knows where the world will take you? But my hat's off to you. And Kaylin said, well, at least it's a start, anyways. All right, Jody has a comment. Kaylin, I think what you did was really neat. I mean, we were having some technical difficulties, but I guess my question is, are you going to add closed captioning? Just maybe I missed the fact that it already had it, but there are some deaf kids who may not understand ASL or be at a level fluent enough where they can gain information from the video. Do you plan to add that at a later date? So you're asking if Kaylin plans to caption, and Kaylin said, yeah, we already have captioning included. I mean, at least we plan to, yeah, definitely. But, like I was saying earlier, we were having some glitches within the program that I've been using for the editing. Is a bit dicey. I mean, it's a freeware, so, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that I need to do that, but I do plan to add that at a later date, absolutely. And Doherty said that she's pleased with that. Nancy, would you like to add something? Hey, Kaylin, that was a fantastic job. The video you made was awesome. And I love the idea that we're sending that out. But prior to you kind of doing your research into that, you mentioned your statistics about the deaf students in a mainstream setting and how only a small percentage of the population of deaf kids in Kentucky come to KSD, and using this as a recruitment tool. Hold on, Keila, I just wanted to ask real fast before you start responding. Have you thought to see, I guess, what the other students are struggling with, like what it is that is preventing them from coming to KSD? Well, have you been able to go out and talk to them in person?
I wasn't able to go out and talk to them, no. But it was not really maybe a weakness or any type of being able to talk to them. It was more of like a fear from the parents, just being the unknown aspect of it. They want to grow up with like a normal, regular hearing kid. My own mother in the past tried to, just kind of work it out with me and see if I wanted to do a cochlear implant. And I feel like that's probably a standard thing for a lot of parents of deaf children. So I think it's more specifically focused on that, because I wanted to show how KSD can help to kind of relieve those fears a little bit, to kind of show, some of the staff and show and provide some, things that we can show and provide a good education here for hard of hearing students, have more support than a mainstream setting may have. We also have, the deaf community here as a benefit. This has been established since the 1800s, and we we've been here for a long time. So trying to convince parents to get them on campus and that sort of thing. It's not really about the social aspect. It's more about focusing on the parents, their belief in their own kid. They can have a better future for their children. That's specifically what the video was actually made for.
Yeah, Kaylin, I definitely agree that, it's about the parents' decision, and their beliefs in their own children. I think too, parents oftentimes want their kids to stay close by and, not to be away somewhere at the school where they can't see them on a daily basis. And they're, left wondering what their child is doing every day. So, I think, that is an aspect. But I also think that, parents, they don't think about, their children and education and some of the barriers they may encounter with that. And so, they leave their kids, in a mainstream setting where Reg Ed teachers aren't able to meet their child's actual needs. And so I think, helping parents to understand and other teachers to understand, like, the communication barriers that KSD could remove for them is a huge element to it. And how, we need to focus on improving the quality of their education. I think that's
Really,
the most impactful.
Really, I noticed there's a lot of parents out there with deaf children. They're more likely not aware of what KSD can offer, and that comes up. They're like, oh, we have a deaf school here where they're here, full time. They didn't know. I think it'd be easier for parents to try, who want to try everything. It's going to be more excited about that. For some from students maybe already be aware, maybe had a deaf family before or deaf parents, it's easier to know that. But if you're only deaf child of a hearing family, it just requires some more confidence, some more searching for what's right to give them more exposure and more knowledge about Kentucky School for the Deaf. There's a lot more than I expected, really.
That's awesome, Kaylin. I'm happy to hear that. I look forward to seeing what you do.
Thank
Scott
you.
says,
That's a
thank you
beautiful
for
job.
sharing, Kaylin.
All right, great. Hats off. I tip my hat to you. Great job. Thanks. You're welcome. Goodbye.
Hey, Toya, would you mind to add me back to Spotlight as well? Because we're switching over
am.
and I'll be the ASL interpreter.
So next there'll be reimagining downtown Danville. They were going to make a presentation of some of the background that had been announced last summer. We've got a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of text asking what's going on, how that's going to impact KSD. So I thought there would be an opportunity to meet with them. We could partner and kind of share their PowerPoint and be able to be a little more involved and partner with that Downtown Danville initiative there. So that's why I invited him.
All right,
The city manager.
give me just a second. I'll pull it up and I will. Earl, if you will turn on your video, I'll spotlight you.
And Toya, remove Brian this
Okay.
time from the spotlight if you
All
need.
right, I'll do it. All right, Earl. I know what I never want to do when I grow up, and that is do Zoom calls all the time.
It's not letting me reinitiate my video.
Okay, hold on just a second. Let me go there.
I totally agree with that, Toya. I don't want to do Zoom calls all the time either, Scott says.
Okay, Earl, try it now. There you go. All right. Hold on just a second, Earl. Let me go back. I had it pulled up and then I've somehow closed it out. So let me go get it. Sent it last night. Here it is.
Sorry to send it so late.
No, 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 no. You were fine. You sent it at the perfect time. It's all good. Let me share my screen and oh, I still did have it up. Okay.
Yes, there we go.
Okay, you just tell me whenever you're ready.
Well, start with, my name is Earl Coffey, and I'm the city manager for the city. And the Reimagining Downtown Danville has been a project that took about a year. It is a very lengthy presentation, and I have tried to shorten it to provide some focus for the possibilities that our consultant team identified for the city and KSD to share and to work together on. But also, I did include some slides to demonstrate the broad nature of the view the consultants took. So the first thing that we did was to look at opportunities for Danville so that we could identify what our strengths are and to see how we can exploit those to take advantage of a couple of things. One is that we need to grow our downtown. It's not a situation where our downtown is just abandoned. It's a situation where we have to make room for more people and additional growth. So the intent then with the downtown master plan is how do we, what vision do we lay out to inspire that growth to happen? And how do we better incorporate the interests of our citizens in that, right? And that's an attempt to explain that's on this slide. But it's important to understand that the downtown master plan isn't a project. It is a trigger for ideas, and it's really designed to help us as a community, not just the city, not just an institution within the city, not just KSD, but us as a community look at opportunities that we may not be aware of and provoke ideas about those and to see together what we can accomplish, right? And so the last paragraph on that page, the slide that she has up, is very important for us to understand. And we should read it together, is that it takes the liberty, this plan takes the liberty of showing many ideas for uses of property within the city, owned by others, that is not meant to advocate the city just taking possession of property. That's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to merely provoke interest in looking at opportunities that may not be obvious, but could be beneficial to all parties involved. And it assumes that we become willing participants with each other and work together on towards some of those ideas. And so as we go to the next slide, what we identified early on are what was considered our guiding principles, in that we want within our community to connect people, places, and culture. Culture is our history. For example, as it relates to KSD, the history of KSD. So we want to add history to that area in and around KSD. We want to connect KSD's campus then to other parts of town, connect people and places and culture. So we want to connect KSD's campus to Center or to the other areas of town where activities happen, such as the parks. And so by doing that, in order to do that, we have to take care of our environment, develop streets for people, develop the travel ways for pedestrians so that downtown is more walkable. And ultimately the result of that will be opportunity for growth, and will be some of the infill growth that will make room for economic expansion, which is a demand at this time. So go to the next slide, please. So some of the things that we were looking at is residential development. How does town grow for housing, right? We want more people to live downtown. And as people live downtown, as you scroll up just a little bit, we want to make room for food and drink, for people to have a place to go sit down and socialize with their friends, and to visit their family members over dinner. Next slide. Then for people, if they're living here, we want folks to have a place to work here. And so what we want to try to create is reinvestment in some of our old buildings so that they're inviting places where people want to be and people where they want to work and live. And then to augment some of those, if you slide up just a little bit, to augment some of those or to support people living downtown and restaurants and this new workplace environment, we have to think about how we have a place for people. Where can that be? And our consultant came up with a recommendation as well as the rendering that's in the middle of that sheet. And so when you get that, then as you scroll up, as you get some of these things happening, then you're going to see the opportunities for retail and services expand, and demand for services increase. And so the likelihood of businesses being added and sustained downtown go up, right? So in order to accomplish that, we have to take care of parking. That's next. And some of the areas of town where we have an overabundance of surface parking lot is a problem for towns the size of Danville. We need office space and retail space and restaurants in these areas where it's just large parking lots. So how do we capture some of that space back for general use? And then as we scroll up to the next slide, some of the things also we dove into is how do we address the needs of the citizens in a healthy way? For example, the courthouse is undersized. We need to expand it. So the consultant dove into that subject and tried to come up with a recommended solution for that subject, as well as acknowledging that any downtown, any environment is improved with more connectivity to parks, easier access to green space for its citizens, and places to gather and to sit and socialize. So then it comes back to the next slide is in order to really make that happen, you have to have the ability to move people around. So you have to have streets, and then you have to make pathways for people, whether it be pedestrians on foot, bicycles. We just have to make our environment downtown more safe or safer for access. So we'll scroll on up, and then we'll get into one of the streets or one of the places, and we'll go up to that entire slide because I'm
Which
really
one?
going
I'm
to talk
sorry.
about the Walnut Street slide.
Okay.
We'll scroll up a little bit, and then we'll talk about the Walnut Street slide, or the Walnut Street corridor is really this new, we need to, it's not safe for pedestrians, but it's undervalued. Right now, we focus all of our attention on Main Street, but what if Walnut Street was as easy to pass through and easy to access on foot as Main Street is, perhaps? So what does that look like, and how does that look for our community when we zoom out and look at Walnut Street? Next slide. And so in the consultant talked about, and so if you look at the top cross section, Walnut Street today, you just have this mass area of cars. And so then in the future, what they envisioned was, well, what if we have large space for pedestrians along Walnut Street at the bottom there? What if the street's a little bit more narrow, but then you have space for people? And so this image, this cartoon image at the bottom of the screen there really became an important image for us to consider. If we can redevelop Walnut Street and expand Walnut Street, it creates this great opportunity to grow our downtown. And so that downtown is not perceived as just 2 blocks along Main Street, so that we acknowledge that downtown is Walnut Street. It's the entire area. And 2 things that are pointing to the bottom of the screen there is on the left-hand side is a Church Street expansion. So currently Church Street dead ends at Walnut Street, and Martin Luther King, which is at the very bottom of that image, is a dead end street. So the consultant has suggested that the city needs to reach out and try to extend Church Street another block And that would bring pedestrians and vehicles onto Martin Luther King more frequently and really grow downtown both east and west, and more importantly, grow that space south. And then on the east side, where there's an existing alley, how do we connect pedestrians to the south safely? And so maybe that alley could be reused to accomplish that. So we'll scroll on up to this planning district concept. And so what the consultant did, if you center that on the image, what the consultant did is take all of Danville and break it up into these zones. And so the green represents KSD's property and KSD's zone. The blue would be the area where we should consider all development to be medical, probably. We've got the red, which is all of our old historic area. The orange is your civic area where you have City Hall, a fire station being constructed. You have the courthouse, the library, the art center. So the orange is our civic district. And then the yellow to the west is Center College. The two purple corridors on the east and the south, the consultant has suggested that we really need to lean into residential use of those properties. And so this map is generating an idea around how to plan each one of the sections of town. But what was interesting for us is that there's this hole right in the middle of town that is the white area in that image, and that is we referred to that as our core district. But it's this real vague area that doesn't demonstrate a lot of history, but it is a largely surface parking lots. It's about 80% surface parking lots, and you'll see this in an upcoming image. But it is sitting uniquely on that Walnut Street corridor, connecting east and west, Stanford Road, all the way over to Center College. The Norton Center is right there. And so this area that we've called the core district, this white area on the map, is really, it becomes our focal point of things that the city needs to try to help facilitate action in that area, or expansion into that footprint that's now largely surface parking lots. So then we'll scroll down, and so what we did with each one of these districts, we targeted some ideas. The consultant, and so when I say we, the city did it, the consultant looked at these areas and said, how can these areas be improved? How do these areas fit in with each other? What do they look like long term? And what should these areas and the city do together? And so we're showing you the example of their ideas on KSD's campus, is that number one is that we should work together with KSD to kind of idealize a planned unit development style drawing for campus, to really look at let's talk about its possibilities. We have a lot of vacant space particularly south of what's labeled as Fackler Street. We just have a lot of empty property. When we talk about funding for KSD and how can we use this property around KSD to become that funding mechanism, truly, that was identified by Magistrate Gay's report back years ago that we discussed briefly with Mr. Hahn, is how do we really implement that? What ideas can we have? And then two, they identified this idea of how do we preserve part of campus for future use? How do we preserve it? How do we make sure that it exists in the future in perpetuity for the benefit of those students at KSD, the people that come back? And so the consultant said, well, what if we develop a new city park, which is your second line there that's got an arrow to it? What if we develop a new park in conjunction with KSD so that the KSD staff and KSD students and the community may benefit from that space, right? We don't know what that looks like, but we should be willing to talk about it. Then of course, some of the ideas, the city has a park along the creek that's at the bottom of the screen, Michael Smith Park. How does the city's reuse of that park play into the south side of campus? Should it augment KSD's future, right? In what way does the city's property benefit KSD? Because they're together. they're budding. So that was an interesting concept, and that's not something that we had really talked about before internally. We've always looked at the park down there as a standalone entity, but it perfectly complements the south side of KSD's campus. So let's talk about that. What opportunities exist there, which was really interesting for us. So we continued to dive into, as we broke town up into these districts, we dove into a strategy for each district to accomplish or to at least trigger discussion around some of the ideas identified on the slides, like the previous one I showed you for KSD's campus. And one of the strategies in that core area is that undeveloped area is the city does need a downtown hotel. We've had studies done. Well, the consultant said, well, this is the perfect spot for a hotel, and it's the perfect spot for a town center. And then because those two things could happen, you would have this area where you could have new commercial opportunities. And then also the city would probably have to be the one to figure out how to consolidate those parking lots into probably a parking structure that of some kind. They provided an image here, but we have no idea what it would look like. So the consultant provided in this slide to really talk about that area. And so the image to the right of this image, the aerial photograph, represents in yellow or orange all the property in that core district that is just parking lot, right? Which is really interesting because I had never looked at it like that before, to be honest. But the parking garage that is depicted in the image above actually has more cars in that space of the garage than in the entire image that is shown in orange. And so if the city can figure out how to build that parking garage, then all of that land in that core district could be redeveloped potentially, or downtown could expand into that area for those property owners. Well, what would that look like? Well, he's tried to depict, at least on the block between, so if you scroll up just a little bit to where we can see that rendering.
Earl, this is the interpreter speaking. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can we switch interpreters really quick?
Yeah, sure.
Do you mind to switch spotlights, Toya? Thank you.
Okay, and so if we slide up just a little bit to where we can see all of that rendering that's on this slide, the consultant has shown us, so the street that is going down the center is actually a depiction of Main Street at the intersection of 4th. Slide the opposite direction. Go back up to your image.
Okay, right there.
The cartoon at the top. There you go, right there. So then we would this would be a great opportunity for these 3 primary structures, which is a parking garage, which is the one that appears to have dark windows, then a town center where you could have a large gathering of people, and then this idea, which is the yellow building, maybe a new downtown hotel at that location. So scroll to the next slide, please. And so then they provided a 3D view of what that might look like as something to trigger conversation, right? Just designed to make us be provoked into conversations with each other about how to implement these things. So again, they're showing a parking garage. So if the city can figure out this parking garage, then maybe we can figure out how to get this hotel built, and then really work on investing in this area to get downtown to grow, to get it to expand, right? So let's go on through and then go to the next slide and some of the other ideas that the consultant came up with. I talked about the courthouse briefly. They provided this 3D, which is at the bottom of this slide, a 3D rendering of how to expand the courthouse, which has been a question for years on how you actually execute that, and then where do cars park. And so there's this idea that a parking structure would be a nice fit for that area, as well as an expansion to the courthouse, which the courthouse desperately needs, right? And it's shown there, the expansion would be shown in orange in the image. So let's go to the next slide. So then we got into Center College. You can scroll on up. And then the image that's at the bottom of that. So we're talking about, here's where Church Street, he dove into this subject of Church Street expansion. And then if we can extend Church Street along Walnut, which is where she's highlighting with the mouse, then that creates this neighborhood area along Walnut where suddenly residential could be expanded. So if you look at the image, there's some housing just to the left of that proposed Church Street. Well, what if this old warehouse that's along this new cartoon street that what if that was housing? So we'll scroll up to the next slide. And so they rendered that so that you could see the possibility of a new street through there with new downtown housing on all four corners. And suddenly Walnut Street may become a new neighborhood area. It all became very interesting for us, right? And so it's something to cause conversation, right? So now let's scroll on up, and then we'll see what some of the ideas were more detailed with KSD. And so this slide is intended to communicate the consultant's suggestion to the city and KSD on things to talk about together, right? That we hold together. We should have as goals together, right? And so number one, that he's got letter A, the preservation of Jacobs Hall. The city should be as invested in the preservation of that building as KSD is. So why are we not thinking about that together? Why are we not working together on the preservation of that structure? Why should the city work with KSD on seeking funds for restoration? What role can we play to support KSD as we go to Frankfurt to talk about main campus, right? How can the city lend its support to KSD's campus, right? Which was an interesting concept. We hadn't talked about that in that way. So letter D, for example, is confirming that the city should work to make sure that we support KSD in preserving that green space where the creek is on the east side. We know there's been talk of erecting a security fence along the perimeter of KSD. Then this letter E at the bottom, that is, let's plan that area for something beneficial for both parties. How do we plan that space and then seek ways to implement it, right? But the most intriguing thing is this letter C at the top, which was the consultant said, there's a lot of green space on that corner. Why don't you and KSD work together to make that a park? If you did that, the east-west connectivity for pedestrians on Walnut Street, we could extend that south through that alley between Walnut Street and Martin Luther King, and we could extend that right into that park. And we could open up that park to become a centerpiece both for KSD and downtown. It fits in the same area as this reanimation project that Michael Hughes, one of our citizens in the African American community, has been working on. Second Street has traditionally been the African American business district. Well, there's a lot of history there. How do we celebrate that history, and how do we celebrate that space with KSD? And so as we scroll on up to the next slide, the consultant took the time to try to craft what a park there might look like, and suggested that the city, which is one of the reasons why we're here today, should we talk about that together? Can that land that is on that corner, could the city help preserve that? And by preserving that, could we more likely create a situation where Jacobs Hall can be preserved without as much pressure on KSD to figure that out by themselves? How can the city help figure those things out so that space is preserved for the benefit of both the community, but ultimately the interaction with KSD and the community, right? How does that space really serve KSD? And can we support that? In what way can the city support that? It's an interesting concept, and certainly something that I think it's healthy to talk about and try to figure out ideas, right? And then the next slide, I think, is I tried to just demonstrate some images that the consultant provided about that space, about Jacobs Hall. How can we reuse it? Can the city construct, or can we have space built for people there that both students and ultimately the community or visitors could use? We don't know, but he suggested talking about it, and so we should probably. Even if it's a no, we should talk about it and try to come up, is there an idea there, right? And so the next slide is identifying for us the reanimation project. The image that is the horizontal one is really demonstrates the area between Main Street and Walnut Street along 2nd Street, which was a large amount of African-American businesses that have been removed in favor of converting that space to Constitution Square Park. And how do we restore that history? How do we communicate that history of that space? And so that's what this project is. But really, this project then could extend on towards this new park concept on the corner of KSD's campus, and also consider elements of KSD in the same way that this is trying to illustrate here, which is you would have this app on your phone, perhaps, that as you walk through town, if you looked, you would see images, historic images that were taken in that area with as you move your phone around, it's kind of like sky view. And so it starts to look like these other things, and you would learn about these images that were taken, that existed there before what you see there today, right? So it's all very interesting. And so that's really the downtown master plan summary sheets. There's a lot to unwind and digest, and certainly we would be willing to talk about those things if you all would like, and leave the information with you or provide additional information. And that's really all the presentation I have, but am willing to spend as much time as you want in just talking through the concepts that the consultant recognized. This was not our plan. This is not something that city staff did. This is something that visitors and our consultant team looked from the outside in at our city and said, these are opportunities for you to both work together and to create in your community.
Okay. Can we see each other? Hey, this is Scott. Can anybody see me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, I found myself here. I was making sure that we were still on screen. Thank you for sharing that with us, Earl, the PowerPoints. And first of all, I really appreciate, your willingness to talk about this. It's important, like you mentioned, for our staff and, community to have a say. And honestly, we have no control over the property and what happens here. It is, in the state's hands, between like KDE, KBE. So it would be nice if the consultants, were able to work with them as well and involve them in this process and their input, as well as the deaf community and the stakeholders that we have here, on and off campus. Just to, get their input and ideas as well.
Yeah, we would love to do something like that.
Well, we just want to make sure that, we are all on the same page moving forward.
Yeah, that's our goal too.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Earl. It looks like Dodie also has a comment that she would like to add. Everybody see me okay as well? Okay, perfect. This is Jody. Earl, I've got a question for you. I really appreciate, your input today. And And I guess my curiosity is, are you currently showing the models that you proposed here to the community? Like, is that presentation something that you're going forward and talking to the other zones and districts about?
Yes, we have done that already. We have communicated outwardly this presentation. There's some information that's on the slides. We are trying to work. There's some information that's not in the packet that I provided you. Mine was focused on your property that's around KSD's campus, but we have tried to identify things we can do in each district, and we are currently trying to have conversations around those ideas. Some of those ideas are more extensive, such as the what I refer to as the core district, or for example, the courthouse. And some of them are less so. Some of it are related strictly to planning and zoning, subdivision regulations or regulations that we need to amend. And we have city staff that's working with planning and zoning to help incorporate some of those ideas. But it will be an ongoing conversation for a long time. And it is something that we hope to have lots of ideas, and good ideas are welcome beyond what the consultant has came up with on this set of slides.
Okay. Just as an additional comment, is there any way that we could, I guess, somehow develop some kind of partnership between your firm and our, like I said, our other stakeholders, our alumni group, we have, the Kentucky Association for the Deaf. Is there any way that we could all, gather on campus to, again, have those stakeholders present for this conversation, just to make sure that, we're all receiving the same information at the same time? Do you think that would be a possibility?
Oh, I'd love to, yeah. The more we can communicate, the better. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Jody. It looks like Nancy has a comment that she'd like to add as well. Thank you for the presentation, Earl, and everything that you've shared. I was looking more at the pictures that you shared for, KSD's campus in particular, and I'm sure that Principal Groby is familiar. We had Walker Hall that, we lost on campus. And after that, the community as a whole was rather shaken. That was really a cherished piece of our history here. A lot of our alumni had, fond memories that they themselves shared there. And there's a sentimental value. It's not just historical, but it's sentimental as well. So, you're talking about like they're in like the A area that you have marked there on campus, like where there's like Bruce Hall and some other buildings there present. And then we have Grow Hall, that has this, beautiful structure. The roof is, magnificent. There's no other buildings in the surrounding area, no other campus that has that kind of structure. So I think it was in C. I initially thought it was A, but it was in the area C that you had shown on the one image. Yeah, but Grow Hall is in that sector. And like I said, there's such a history with that building, and there's no way that we could replicate that elsewhere. I really don't see that being a possibility. So I guess I'm just wondering, are you talking about, the city using, some of this area like as a park and how to integrate that onto campus? I'm just not sure. My concern is that we're doing that at the cost of, the history that KSD has. So that's a concern that I have. I guess it would be nice to have, like Jody was mentioning, our stakeholders, from the community present. and just more of like a forum, so to speak, to have a discussion about, how their concerns, and the impact that they foresee with this possible move. To see, if it's something that they may even be able to rally behind, or if they're opposed, to how how it's going to affect the relations between, our deaf community that's present here in Danville, as well as, with our hearing community. We had, there's an area, the Martha's Vineyard area in New York. It's a, historical area for the deaf community. And so, of course, over the years, some things have, changed and evolved, but there's still that legacy. But, and it's unfortunate because, I don't think they preserved that as well as they should have. And so then some of that, was lost for, future generations. And so that is a concern for me, here on campus, with Kentucky School for the Deaf. And I don't want to see that same loss of legacy as Martha's Vineyard endured. So especially with that C sector that, you had indicated on the one image. So, I mean, again, I'm amenable to discussion, but that was a concern that I saw initially.
Yeah, that's
for that,
totally.
that part.
And Scott was saying, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, thank you for your time sharing with us, Earl. This is Scott, and I just really appreciate your comments and everything, Nancy. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
And then Jody's asking, Earl, what was your last name? If I could interject real fast, I missed your last name.
My last name is
Coffey.
Coffey.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna write that down real quick. Thanks, Earl.
Yeah, and what I would go ahead.
So last summer, we referred to you that PowerPoint that had information in order to contact Earl Coffey as well. That'll actually be out there, and all the information will be on this PowerPoint as well.
Yeah, but I would simply add and suggest and confirm that we don't know what that image of a park, the buildings, we don't, there is no plan for that, right? They're just, we haven't created that plan.
I don't think Scott can see me. I should be spotlit, I believe.
Yeah.
I can see Scott now.
Okay, Earl, what were you saying a moment ago? I think we have Scott.
I was just confirming that there's no plan for C. We don't have an idea. We don't know. The consultant just identified that space as an opportunity, probably underutilized for all parties involved, including KSD and the city and community. And, it's land that's sitting there that we should work together on finding use for. And if it's a use for majority of KSD's campus, that's fine. Let's try to activate that space for people and get people into that space in a healthy way that works with all parties. And so that we can raise awareness of KSD and what KSD does also, right? In the same way we're trying to sell Danville, let's sell KSD. Let's get people, raise awareness of what KSD is for the deaf community. It's important. And we want to lean into that and support KSD as an institution in the same way we would Center and the same way we would anyone else. We want KSD in town. We want KSD strong.
Thank you.
Thanks, Earl.
Thank you all.
So I think now is a good opportunity for people to know that we have some discussions with the state, with KDE, with alumni, with parents and students. I want to get everyone and have an open dialogue. That I think that'd be great. Great opportunity. Okay, now I've got a PowerPoint, a full PowerPoint that I'm happy to send to you all again later. So we can move on to the next agenda item. And the goal is we're looking ahead at next meeting. Just to be aware that we have 7 members here. We need to have 7 members here. 2 parents representative that are, it's actually a blank position that we need to fill. We need to have some dialogue with Principal Roby and with Debbie as well, and try to search and try to find a list of names of potential candidates that may be able to join us next meeting. I think it's very important to have parent representatives here on this board. So that's going to be our next goal for the next meeting that we have. Okay. Nancy, go ahead.
I was just wondering if Hands and Voices, there's a lady by the name of, I think it's Brooke. I'm not sure if I'm spelling that accurately. I don't remember her last name off the top of my head.
Brooke? Yeah.
But I know that she has a son who's deaf. I think he should be around 4 or 5 at this point. So I'm sure that, you know, Nancy or Miss Brooks or Brooke, whatever her name is, would be able to like reach out to Hands and Voices and see if any of the parents would be interested and, you know, collaborating or getting in touch.
So her name is
It looks like, yeah.
Monty, is that what you said?
Montgomery. Yeah, Jared just sent a message. I mean, she seems to be fairly motivated, so I feel like that would be a good resource.
Yeah, and we can just give those names to Toya and potentially invite them and make sure we can have those names and share this with them for the next meeting. Propose names to KDE and the Kentucky Board of Education as well, and contact them, see who's interested to fill out an application to serve on our advisory board. And that's something we can discuss with KDE. So, all right, the next topic. We need to discuss the annual report form. I'm sorry, the format. Talk about some different ideas that Toya had shared maybe at the next meeting. Also, budget updates. Has there been a decision by the legislator for a 6-year plan, a strategic plan from KDE? Maybe some updates and see what's going on that front. We'll do that next meeting as a goal. And the advisory board meeting schedule, it would be a good idea to have 1 year schedule in advance. That's what I'd like to propose to you. For the next meeting, maybe August, then again in November, February, and May. That'd be 4 times a year. So we can agree on the dates. August 10th, which is a Tuesday. You said the 10th? Yes, it's a Tuesday. November 9th. That's a Tuesday as well. February 18th. 8th. Is that the 8th or 18th? February 8th. February 8th. And May 10th. Of course, 2022, that'd be next year, for May 10th. And so right now, yes, Toya?
May I recommend that we back it up to the first week of May, where we failed this meeting on the week of K-Prep? If we could back it up that first week of May, just so we can avoid that. Does that, because I think that impacted, I know, Bridget and Josh today. And they may have some feedback on that week.
Oh. So you want to move it to April?
No, I think we have to keep May, but maybe that the first week of May. Like May 3rd.
May 3rd. Okay, that works. That works. Now my question is for Ms. Roby. Do you think, so you said May 3rd, that's a Tuesday, right? Hold on. Nancy said, oh, okay. I was looking at the 22nd. The 3rd, gotcha. 2022, gotcha. 2022. All right. So my question for Ms. Roby is, do you think it is possible to meet in person?
I believe.
The reason is, well, if we did a 6 o'clock meeting, come at 6, and I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Toby?
Well, right now, our campus, we've opened it back up for educational purposes. So I'm hoping in the fall that we'll be able to open it back up for meetings. So as soon as we know that,
Okay, so right now it'll be considered a Zoom meeting going forward, and so we can use the times. Let's see, 3 to 5. Would that work? 3 to 5. What do you think? 3 to 5 for the virtual meeting in August. Does that work for everyone? And is that on Zoom, Dodie saying? Yes, via Zoom. Definitely, for sure. Well, no. As the principal just explained, we don't know the answer to that question yet. So when we're allowed to be in person, whether we'll be in person or not, we're not sure. So for now, we're just going to go ahead and mark it as a virtual meeting from 3 to 5 p.m. Does that work for everyone? There's no conflicts between anyone's work hours if we do 3 to 5.
I said it's like I had a conflict that came up today, but I don't foresee that being an issue later.
So 3 to 5, that should work. All right. So if we can have in-person meetings, if that's approved by the Department of Education, then we'll do 6 p.m. But for now, with the virtual meetings, we'll go ahead and schedule that from 3 to 5. All right. So now, and yes, Toya.
I'm sorry. One thing I did want to add that I left out of my report is I met with Dr. Glass about a month ago. And so he plans to attend at least one of our meetings a year. So hopefully campus will be open and he can be here with us. And then secondly, whatever recommendations you all make at each quarterly meeting, I will share those with him. So if you all have any recommendations at the conclusion of the meeting today, I will pass those on.
So we really look forward to seeing Dr. Glass here at a meeting. That'd be great. All right. All right. Are we all good with the schedule, the 4 meetings? Great. Now the last item that we have, we'd like to have a recognition ceremony for the senior class of 2021. So we would like Toya to read that, if you don't mind.
Resolution of KSDAB in recognition and best wishes to the graduating class of 2021 KSD seniors on May 26, 2021. Whereas teachers, instructional aides, student life staff, interpreters, nurses, food services staff, housekeeping, operations staff, outreach, and administrators serving the Kentucky School for the Deaf students successfully educated and supported the class of 2021 seniors to achieve their goals through virtual, electronic, and in-person instruction to graduate. And whereas the members of the class of 2021's hard work and achievement has caused them to be recognized and appreciated by teachers, dorm staff, community, parents, and other KSD students. And whereas hard work and active participation at the Kentucky School for the Deaf have enabled class of 2021 seniors to achieve excellence in many areas of school life and prepared them to join the community as active members. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Kentucky School for the Deaf Advisory Board hereby honors and extends its deep appreciation and hearty congratulations to all graduating class of 2021 seniors, and furthermore, orders this commendation duly recorded in the official minutes of this body this the 11th day of May in the year of 2021. Warren S. Hahn, Jr., KSD AB Chair.
Who all supports this resolution to be accepted? So Dodie puts forward a motion. Do we have a second? Nancy? All right, great. So all in favor, say aye. Ayes. All right, the ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you. So now we're looking for public comments and questions that have been emailed to me, and then we're ready to close this meeting. So 1 moment. It doesn't appear that we have any. So do I hear a motion to adjourn this meeting? Okay, Dodie moves to adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a second? Is anybody? Can I get a second? Who seconds? Okay, Bridget Mann. seconded the motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye to close this meeting. And I'll see you next August. All right, thanks.
Brian,
Motion passes. Thank you.
Brian and Alicia, thank you all very, very much.